Hi, this is Jeff, and I'm actually calling from Iowa.
Jeff from Iowa, what's on your mind?
Well, so a few months ago, I was thinking about cowardice in politics and cowardice in reporting. They're probably the same. Sort of aligns with the DeSantis stuff. But months ago, we were talking about Andrew Yang, talking about Joe Manchin. How centrism totally going to catch on, guys, and just give it a second. We had all these breathless reportings about it and how, Joe Biden and nothing, I'll listen to it. You have DeSantis who just gives up and completely becomes the reek of 2024, same way Ted Cruz was. And just miraculous to me that no one takes the actual lessons of what Donald Trump is teaching people, which is that you can say a lot of things about him, but he at least seems to give a shit. And the idea that we can still be this milquetoast, let's take everything swiftly and let's take everything seriously and everything will be okay, and that the media thinks, the people in power think that still at the stage the United States was in 1955 and 1960, where, if you just work, there's money. Everyone's going to be successful because they're all comfortable. So it must just be everyone else in the real world is just... So we're all just going to ignore stuff that actually matters, while the politicians are rewarded for their cowardice because no one actually asks them questions. And for the whole run of this, I live in Iowa. Actually, my family's from New Hampshire. Kind of get weirdly exposed to political primary stuff. The idea that all these Republicans running exclusively for second place, none of them decided to actually just attack Donald Trump. That happened in 2016. No one's learned this lesson. It's just absolutely gobsmackingly crazy to me. I just don't understand how the only person who has figured out it's okay to be angry about how shitty things are, Donald Trump. And I'm not saying he's right, that this is the stage we're in our life, as society. But
there's a couple of premises which I would take issue with. First off, Donald Trump does not care. Okay, he does not care. Now, aesthetically,
it is an act. It is an act.
I don't think it is. I don't even think he has to act. He's just up there and he's just, free forming it for the most part. He's not as packaged as mainstream politicians are. Okay. And the reason why they don't attack Donald Trump is because they cannot attack Donald Trump. Here's the thing. There is no Republican who was going to beat Donald Trump. There was never a Republican who was going to beat Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump could have a heart attack. Donald Trump could get arrested and be in a jail. And then even then, I'm not even sure. But there was never a Republican who was going to beat Donald Trump, because that is what Republican voters want. And in terms of broadly speaking, if there was no electoral college, this would not even be controversial who's going to win the election. But there is an electoral college, and we do have a Democratic Party that is has always been, we have a duopoly in this country. It's true. And the power of capital dictates much of the sort of parameters in which the political conversation takes place. Now, it is not immutable. We've seen different eras in this country where that has ebbed and flowed. But no one was going to displace Donald Trump. And this was set into stone, I think, at the very least, with the Bush administration, if not prior to that. It's just simply the Republican Party has become a revanchist party. They created a Frankenstein, and then they lost control of it. And that's just the bottom line. His racism is appealing to them. The idea, you go back and you look at the rhetoric that supported George Bush. He's the CEO president. Well, I mean, this guy that was his whole brand. He literally, his brand was, I'm the head of this company. I fire people. And then you had a Republican Party with all of these sort of like Paul Ryans and et cetera, who are like, you are morally superior if you have money. That was it. What was it? 7 years ago, 8 years ago, we were sitting here saying, Donald Trump is going to get on that stage with the other Republicans, and he doesn't even have to open his mouth except to say, I'm a billionaire. So anything I say is right. And you combine that with the racism, the anti-immigration stuff, which is all from talk radio. It bit George Bush in the ass in 2005 when he and Carl, what's his face? Rove knew that the Republican Party, at least in terms of numbers, was going to end up being a minoritarian party unless they became, sort of more amenable to the fact that not everybody is white. But Donald Trump come in and, without the Electoral College, we've been having this conversation. And the fact is that Barack Obama, in his response to the financial crisis, essentially allowed for millions, maybe 3.2 million people to lose their homes when he had the opportunity to not have them lose their homes. And that is just a fact. They could have.
That goes back to cowardice, though, because like you said in your previous call,
that's ideology.
A few earlier than that, it's like, look, Biden could make it a policy of the government, policy of his reelection, to say we're going to build more houses and we're going to sell them. We're going to sell them for discounted prices, or we're going to buy land and then give it away for some sort of 15-year loan. If you pay it off, it's X number of dollars or whatever. It's the same basic thing where if you were a Democratic politician and you weren't captured by capital, you could do these things.
Oh yeah, but it's, I don't think Barack Obama thought he was captured by capital. It's just Barack Obama, to get to where you're going to be a president, to get to the point where you can actually do
that position.
What's that?
He needed to have that viewpoint.
He didn't need to in his mind. He thought it was the right one.
That he did is why he was the one who made it there.
Because he's marinated in a perspective that, what the guy's name? Froman from Citigroup and that Rubin from Citigroup. They understood what needed to be done. That Geithner understood what needed to be done. He was just marinated in that. He thought he was making the right decision, and he knew it was not necessarily the most politically sellable one. And he hid behind, there's a whole story about how Paulson would have, would have okayed, and Bush was even willing to okay because he was on his way out, okay the aid to go directly to homeowners and pay the banks that way rather than go from the banks to the homeowners. And, Obama, there's only one president at a time, and that's George Bush. So I'm not going to sign off on it. And then it didn't happen.
He appointed Larry Summers to he
just thought this way. It wasn't like these are the people who are going to rise to the presidency in this society at this time. That's it.
That's why Adolph Reed called out Obama before he was when he was a junior senator, saying this is the future of the Democratic Party, the sort of slick talking community organizer who's amenable to capital.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get to be a president of the Harvard Law Review unless you understand how to sort of operate and you feel comfortable and people feel comfortable with you in these circles. And that's just the nature of American politics. And so, these are and they're not permanent constraints, but these are the sort of the real, these things exist. You can't wish them away. And Donald Trump was inevitable with the Republican Party. And, this is,
Then it goes back to, I guess it goes back to my ultimate point was, if you're going to run against him, we've talked about this for months, why? Truly, to me, at this point, Nikki Haley seems to be waiting for Donald Trump to pull an Elvis and die on the toilet.
Well, that's her only chance. Exactly. And you know what? That's not a bad strategy. Just to happen to think that Nikki Haley
no, if
wouldn't
you watch
be...
him, he looks like he can barely form sentences. If he's riffing, he looks like he's sundowning.
I know, but he's been looking like he's been sundown. I mean, I genuinely believed in 2016 that the guy had untreated syphilis with the way that he was acting. I mean, it's her only bet. Let's put it that way.
You remember during his first term, came out that there was half a dozen trips to Walter Reed that were unreported at the time.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. But also, I wouldn't necessarily, I wouldn't underwrite a death benefit insurance on Joe Biden either.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's why. Why do you think Kamala Harris would be quiet about it?
Yep. All right. Well, listen. Appreciate the call. Got to go.
Keep taking it.
Thanks. All right. Militant apathy. Obama was weak sauce. He let a mother effer with 3 baby mamas, 2 of whom were undocumented immigrants, make him present his birth certificate.